Hello everyone, great to be back in Podland.
Why are you introducing it?
And we're episode, I am introducing Paul, because I am in control today.
Okay.
Paul's sitting in a dressing gown and a bobble hat.
I am not in a dressing gown, I'm fully dressed. I've got cords, I've got a black polo neck on, I've got
underneath it's a bit, all because the lady likes.
Yeah, I am on Lady Loves Milk tray, but I've just got my favourite...
Does she love it or like it?
She loves it.
She loves it.
She fucking loves it.
Anyway, here we are, episode... Can't remember, 14, 15.
Stop counting the episodes.
And we're back from France. We made it through the barricades because the gilets jaunes.
Through the barricades.
Through the gilets jaunes kind of riots, mini riots. The best one of which was when we went on the péage. We actually lost our ticket on the péage. It was extraordinary because when we came to the bit where you had to pay and give your credit card, there was like a couple of policemen standing there, and then nearer the bit where you put your card into the machine, there was a group of the gilets jaunes, you know, the high-vis rioters, the rebels, and they...
The rebel army.
They had somehow got hold of the thing that lets the cars through.
Well,
the arm. And they just let us through without paying, with the police watching us stonily. Grumpily, yeah. And I thought that wouldn't happen in Britain. I mean...
They've backed down again, the government have backed down again.
Yeah, I saw that. Anyway, so... And then the
French government always backed down.
We made it back over the ferry. We did an 8-hour...
Because they're shitting it, actually. They're shitting it of having their heads chopped off. That's what it is. They've done it once before.
I saw... Did you see a thing on Facebook with the guys with an angle grinder taking out a ATM machine right in the middle of Paris?
Wow.
Right in the middle of Paris, in daylight.
Did they get all the money out?
Well, actually, you didn't see them taking the money out. You just saw a long shot or kind of medium shot of them doing that, and then a close-up of a hole in the ATM machine and nothing inside it.
Well, they must
you
have
assume
done it.
something must have gone on between the two.
Some people are capitalising on it, on the unrest, aren't they, to reap. They're doing some reaping.
Yeah, right. Because I love the way they went straight for the most expensive shops in Paris.
Yeah, in London they'd be
doing McDonald's in Lewisham.
They'd be ready
on Tottenham.
They'd be rioting in Leighton, wouldn't they? Exactly.
Foot Locker. I saw them breaking into Foot Locker, Paul. I'm sure I told you this.
Woolwich got absolutely hammered.
Foot Locker in Kilburn. I drew up that hot night when those riots were going off, and I carefully eyed there were about 9 guys smashing into Foot Locker on the corner of Kilburn High Street, and I was in the traffic lights, just waited for them, just about to go green, and I shouted out at them, "Size 9, if you will, something nice. We've got a pale colour, size 9. Could you just bring them over here?" And thinking it was very funny, and I looked back at the lights, and they'd gone red, and I couldn't get away because there was traffic going across the junction. And I thought, God, if they don't think I'm funny, I'm going to get into trouble here. But I got through it.
Did anything happen?
They were smashing into it.
They should have.
Did
they not come over and give
no,
you
no, they didn't.
daggers?
Get me a size 9. I think I told you this. And then shortly after that, I went to Jamaica. And in Jamaica, in the little bar way up in the hills, a bloke asked me if I wanted to buy a suit. It's a very unusual thing. And I went into this back of the bar, and there were like 4 suits on hangers, still with the next price tags on it, which must have come from those riots, managed to get into a bar deep in Jamaica in only a matter of about a week or so.
Amazing. Yeah. Globalisation.
Yeah. Anyway, so we came back from France. We went on this time we went on an 8-hour ferry.
It makes a change from the plutocrats stealing things from people, doesn't it, Guy? That happens every day.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in a good mood today.
Well, brighten up a bit, for Christ's sake.
No, I mean, I'm annoyed.
But leave the little petty domesticities behind
No, I'm thinking, what about
you.
this? Everything. Why is everything such a mess, Guy?
Because
it's more your generation.
Because we are. I'm afraid we are hastening into chaos. And with those pictures of Mars, someone said that's where we're headed. Yeah. There's no mistake. And I think most people are gone, well, there's not very much we can do now, but just accept it. And it is really chaotic.
Well, you know what? It's funny because there's not much that most individuals do because they don't have the power. But what if you've got real money and real control? Could you not do something, do you think?
Yeah, run away, make a huge compound and put loads of guards around it and don't let anyone come near you, and put air conditioning in and for the hot weather and pull patio heaters for the cold weather.
Apparently.
That's what you do.
Apparently it's a real problem, though, when you do that. If the balloon goes up, what do you pay your staff in to keep them loyal?
food. You don't shoot them.
They've got the guns, Guy.
Right.
That's the point.
Oh, well, that's it. It's always there's always some good, loyal people who will help you out in time of
To an
difficulty.
extent, perhaps. So someone makes them a better offer. Apparently, it's one of the things when you go on these security symposiums about the possibilities of future revolutions and problems is how to manage your armed staff in your compound without having them turn against you and take everything off you.
Well, being nice to them, I think, would be the first thing I'd try.
Yeah, you'd have to be very fucking nice.
Yeah. I don't have a large problem of a huge staff that can turn against me. I've just got Karina, my cleaner, who I think I could take out, actually.
You kind of see
She
me.
came at me with... Although actually she's
Yeah, but
pretty...
don't you see me?
She
You
is
see
stronger
me
than me.
as-
She lifted some furniture
She'd
last
do
week.
you, Guy.
Yeah, she'd flattened me. Lovely Karina. She's
Don't
great.
you see me as a member of staff in some ways?
In some ways, yes, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't
well,
say it in public. Sort of thing I say in public.
Then
My
you
man.
Then
my,
you have got problems.
My man, Paul.
Then you have got problems, Guy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we got back to England. We went on an 8-hour ferry from St Malo. We had to share a cabin. That was
lovely.
Paul's not the kind of man one would normally want to share a cabin with. He was like playing on the bunks. Such a little boy. And you know what he did?
Did you have to talk about
Then
this?
he got on the light switches and flicked them on and off. And I said, Paul, I'm trying to read.
This is private time. I mean,
Guy, look, he's jumping up and down. Don't jump on the bed. It's not polite.
I was trying to make it look like lightning in there, and it was very effective, actually. Guy was screaming like a child. Stop it! Stop it! As I flicked the lights on and off, and it really looked like a lightning storm, and everything became like a strobe light.
Yeah, it was incredibly annoying.
Yes.
We got back and...
Have a nice lunch on the boat.
I wanted to ask you a question, actually. When I was driving over, I thought of this. Have you eaten any of that lamb that...
No, it's in the freezer.
Why haven't you eaten it?
Because it's in the freezer.
Right.
We will eat some over Christmas.
Right. This is lamb. I had 6 lambs, which I had them in the field by my house over the summer. They came in about April, May, and fattened them up on the grass and on some extra feed. And they got quite friendly, and they...
Not with you, they didn't.
And they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then in about November, I decided to take them to the abattoir. And I needed help, and Paul came to help me take these 6 sheep, which Paul had got to know quite well, actually. I think everyone had really got to know them, although they were very boring, because whenever I came out the house, they thought I was going to feed them. And then,
You were just the meal ticket.
so I'd ended up going round the other side of my house or ducking underneath a wall one occasion, so that the sheep wouldn't see me. And I thought, this is terrible. They've got to go.
I liked seeing that one butt you whenever we went in there. That was
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah.
And it really liked me, that sheep.
The big one is that.
Yeah, he couldn't bar. It went... Bleh, bleh, made this noise. So I knew I could really identify him. It was quite difficult taking him to be killed. Why would you shoot one of those sheep in the forehead then with a 410 shotgun?
Yeah, more in a way. I think I probably would, more than what we eventually had to do, which was to get them first of all before dawn in the dark. After quite a wet night, we had to get these sheep into the back of our animal trailer, and they did not want to go. I mean, they were half Welsh, so they're naturally quite rebellious breed and difficult breed, unbiddable breed.
Suspicious as well.
But they were suspicious, and they knew something was going on. And I suspect Paul and I had whatever the pheromone is, or the hormone in our breath, because they... And I remember struggling with one, really struggling, and it wasn't fighting for its life at that point. It kind of was. And I thought, oh my God, this is a really powerful life force. And it was between my legs. You remember, it nearly got away with us. We were both covered in mud and trying
Mum
to
pulled me across the ground.
Yeah, Paul held on to it. Thank God, or else it would have been running down the lanes of Pilton.
We wrestled them in, actually.
Yeah, it was really difficult getting them in. And we were okay in the car.
But isn't it interesting, at the point when you're wrestling the sheep, there's a point where you're thinking, let's try and do this in a kind of in an ordered and gentlemanly way, I suppose you could describe it. Or what's the other way? A compassionate way, I suppose. But there's a point when the sheep wrestles and tries to escape, and you have to go...
Use force.
You just use force.
A vet has a look at them, and to check for any disease it's a bit odd that they're being checked for their health just before they're killed. But
those who are about to die.
yeah, those who are about to die. And then there's a kind of metal shutter, which I guess must be opened up, and they're pushed underneath it into some kind of arrangement. But I didn't see the funneling or the killing.
That's what
but
they
I
used to call
saw
it.
blood coming across the floor, and I could hear the clang and the moan of the clang of the steel and the moan of the animals. And I looked at my little sheep and said, "Bye-bye, see you on the other side," and went back to the car with Paul, and we drove the trailer off empty. Mm-hmm. And it is a pity that we can't kill them one by one over a period on my field, and then get someone in to skin them and butcher them myself. I know how to butcher a sheep, and just do it all at home.
I really liked those sheep, and they were recognisable, and they all had their own characters. That's for sure. Some were timid, and a couple of them were quite upfront. One was definitely the leader, and I used to pet them, and I liked them. And so, taking them to their deaths seemed weird. It felt like. Do you know about the Judas sheep? Do you know about that? They have a sheep
that leads the others in.
That leads the others in. Yeah.
I think you went off home, and the next morning I got up, and I was very used to the sheep calling for food quite early in the morning. I could even hear it from my bedroom, and I'd think, "Oh, for goodness sake, stop it." I really did hear the silence of the lambs. I said to Jono was there, and I said, "Jono, listen to that. That is the silence of the lambs." It was really an active absence of noise. Then I went to pick up the meat, and I looked at the meat in the back of the car. I had to take the carcasses first of all to the butchers, and then they cut it into cuts, and then I saw both as carcasses in the back, 6 carcasses lying there, and then I saw them in boxes. I immediately cooked a shoulder. I just put it straight in with some red wine, and I had a little bit of trouble with it.
Did you?
I had a little bit of trouble with it. Well,
were the faces looming out of the darkness?
No, it was more like, this is too much. I'm already full. I got to the dish and I took it out of the oven, and I looked at it and thought, I'm not hungry anymore. So quite kind of visceral. And I don't know if it was I'm not morally hungry, or I don't know quite what it was. I was convinced that if I left it a bit, I would soon get my appetite back for that. I'm sure I will. But it made me stop and think about it, and I think that's probably a good thing, actually. It's probably a good thing. So.
What about synthetic meat?
And that just seems so horrible. It seems like the worst of both worlds. It's just
synthetic meat?
Yeah.
But they're growing it out of the same stem cells, apparently, now. They can grow a steak, and it bleeds like a steak, and it tastes like a steak, except there's no animals involved.
Yeah, it just sounds dreadful.
What they're going to make...
I would rather eat beans and...
Do you know what they're going to make, Guy? These sort of quivering, weird creatures. And they kind of look like a sausage with little legs. And the legs are only there for them to stand up. And shit comes out of them, but it's just because of the production process of the meat. They've got no bones in them. They've got no eyes. They've got no brain. So they're not really alive. They're just like a quivering...
So they can walk between the bun, and then you just slam the bun on top of them.
No, and then what happens is...
Clip off the legs.
They just get harvested. Yeah, exactly. By a machine. But the meat tastes exactly like meat.
It doesn't taste it. Well, it might taste exactly like meat to you, but it doesn't to me, because the thing about the taste of something, meat particularly, is that it's freighting the history of the animal. If you have any respect at all for yourself, it should. I don't eat meat that which I don't know where it came from. I wouldn't do that. It's true, some sausages, I'm not sure in every respect, but beef,
kidding.
But I'll eat some sausages where it's a bit darker. But I mean, I know it's organic. I know it's organic. But I won't eat beef unless I know basically where the cow was and where it came from.
You didn't know where those duck breasts came from in France?
That's absolutely true, and I'm very suspicious of them when I saw the size of them.
Massive.
We made magre de canard.
Steroidal.
Yeah, but it tasted okay.
Well, it's delicious. I think, though, don't you think that the future is going to be interesting? I mean, what if, for instance, what if the AI gets a taste for food? That'll be interesting. If it becomes really elaborated, it might start eating us.
Yeah. AI doesn't have a mouth, Paul.
It will have.
How is it going to have a mouth?
It can make itself one. You haven't got your head around the AI, have
No,
you,
I
Guy?
definitely haven't, 'cause it's stupid.
Maybe we should eat humans, though. They're tasty. There's no doubt about that. People get a taste for them. A bit like certain countries getting a taste for dogs, you know, they end up eating dogs. Apparently, someone told me, a Korean person once told me, that the people in Korea who eat dog, she said there's some people shun them. A lot of people shun them because they smell slightly different. You dog eaters. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who don't eat pork say that it does horrible
Pork
things
people
to pork
smell
eaters.
different.
Yeah, I'm sure they do behind our backs, you know. Or maybe to my face if I.
Are you a bit of a pork fan, Guy?
I love some pork. I love some yeah. Particularly I like some processed pork, heavily processed pork.
In direct contradiction to what you just said.
Yeah, I know ginsters is my heroine.
Ginsters?
It is,
I mean,
yeah.
how the hell do you know where that's come from or what's in it?
No, it's absolutely true. I do go off the wagon a bit from the point of view of the provenance of my meat and ginsters, but they always deliver on taste, ginsters.
What about what you were saying the other day as well about the animals? Because that's really freaking me out at the moment. Like, there are no insects anymore.
Oh, yeah.
What will it look like? I'd love to have a look. Will it be a smouldering heap?
The world?
Yeah. Or will it all be like little thorium reactors outside every village and, like you say...
Sweden, basically. Will it go to Sweden or Syria? You know, it's one where which direction are we headed? It looks like we're hammering down the path towards Syria, a bit faster than
Aleppo,
Sweden at
yeah.
the moment. Yeah, yeah. But whether or not I feel responsible for it, I think it's more responsible just to be honest to yourself. You have more of a responsibility to be honest to yourself, and if you're not very good at conservation, just accept it and say, I'm a bit wasteful and I'm a bit extravagant. And, for me to go, I really care about the fish is rank hypocrisy, Paul. It is. In fact, if I was a fish and I heard me saying, oh, it really matters about the fish, I would go, fuck, Guy. How many lobsters has he eaten? How many times has he been to Scott's and had a fruit de mer and gabbled away with his mates?
If you are not capable of taking those steps yourself, then surely... what we have to do is we have to put a government in there who are going to make you do it. And not this lot. Because they won't make you do anything.
Well, they kind of nudge me. They nudge me on the light bulbs. They nudge me on the night bulbs.
Look at Trump. Revoking every single protection, opening up national parks for fracking, deregulating this, deregulating that, because he likes small government. That's what all this is about. Shouldn't we be putting a government... a difficult government in place in this country who will force the likes of you, and probably me to an extent, to do something about it?
Well,
Isn't that logical?
No.
But you can't deny that that's a logical thing,
Well, you can't put a government
because you've just said, I won't do it. I need to be made to do it.
Yeah. But maybe I won't do it is what got us this far, and it's okay to be resistant to it.
We need to tax the fuck out of you.
Well, I noticed. I bought an air ticket yesterday, and I just saw that nearly half of the bill was tax.
So where's all the fucking money going? The government should be doing something about it anyway, shouldn't they? We shouldn't have to be voting in extremists to get something done. But that is what's going to end up happening.
I think it is happening. It's just that it's all going at an astonishingly. It's just getting faster and faster and faster. The decline, the decay, it's just going downhill so much faster. If I saw some old photographs of the countryside, and it's just shocking how fluffy and overgrown and all beautiful the hedgerows and the woods were in these old. It must have been probably. Not even Edwardian, maybe even interwar photographs of Somerset, where I live, and it's totally unrecognisable now. I think that the chainsaw was one of the most influential developments, technological developments, because when the chainsaw came, it just changed our relationship with trees totally. Because to cut a big tree down with an axe is a hell of a lot of work. You really have to be committed to it. And what's lovely about trees, if you give up halfway through, the tree won't die. It'll just heal itself, and have one of those kind of things in the bark. You really have to. When you see a large tree being chopped down by blokes with axes, and there's huge saws, that they.
Well, again, we're back to science, aren't we? Because it was the Industrial Revolution, and it could be argued there were a series of smaller industrial revolutions after the big one, where things got made more modular and more accessible to the man in the street or the woman in the street, whoever. You could go along to a shop and buy a smaller version of these big industrial machines that were being used, like you could buy a car, and so again, it's down to science, isn't it? But we should just ban scientists, revoke science, become Luddites, destroy all that.
Yeah, but the moment we've got a child with an infection, we want them to have antibiotics, and that doesn't really work that way either.
No,
it's a mess, but I think it's much better to embrace the mess, because you cannot sort it out. And all we're going to do, Paul, is drive ourselves even more fucking crazy than we are.
Do you think that David Attenborough's right about there being too many people then? Do you think that's the bottom line?
Well, it looks to me like a fairly major one. And at the same time, as me going, there's too many people. If there were less people, then there'll be more resources, da-di-da-di-da. I then go out, and almost not every woman, but loads of women I know, have got fertility issues and are going to huge lengths to try and have children. And it's like we've got to be putting our tax into increasing their fertility. At the same time as wringing our hands going, the solution is to have a lower, a lower population. It's like, it's such a mess. It's better just to say it's a mess. It's a crazy, tangled mess, and who knows what's going to happen. We're probably heading to Mars. I mean, we're heading to a landscape like Mars, rather than some beautiful, jungly, wonderful places.
How many? What's the population of the Earth?
7.5 billion.
7.5 billion.
Is it? And when I was born, it was 2.5.
Right.
Just in my life, it's gone up 5 billion, and it's going up faster. And that's why it's hard to rent a house in Pilton, and I know it's the case. Well, according to sheer pressure of numbers, what it's doing to the housing in Pilton.
According to my calculations, that means that for every human being on the Earth, there's 68,000 square metres for every individual. Unfortunately, though, a lot of the Earth is water.
Right. Well, I'm not going for the water bit. Can I pick which bit I have, which acreage I have?
Well, let's just divide that by 3, and then you get roughly 22,600 square metres per person.
No, I don't even know quite what that is, but I suspect that's about like a supermarket.
22,000?
Yeah. Kind of medium-sized supermarket, yeah. Per person.
Yeah, at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment.
It's not very much, really.
It's a meaningless statistic, Paul, that. It doesn't add anything to the debate. Yeah, you went all excited and got on your computer and
did a calculation.
And it does not throw any light on it.
But it's impossible to throw fucking light on this subject.
That's why we mustn't waste too much time trying.
So what are we going to do then?
Have fun.
Dr. Guy, yeah, back to that again.
Live before we die.
Yeah.
And use these resources that have been given to us, knowing that generations will not be able to use them again.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So
it's more difficult to you. You don't have the little eyes of your grandchildren looking at you, who hopefully won't listen to this. But if they do, I'm sure they'll go, thanks, Grandad.
Do you hold out any hope at all that the scientific community will come up with a solution to some of these problems? Or
Yeah, and create others at the same time, just like they always do. And the artists and the religious people will do the same thing. They'll create some solutions and some problems. And I don't think it'll go puff and everyone will disappear. I think just my version of the future that I always go to is a book called Ridley Walker. Have you read it? By Russell Hoban. It's not actually nearly as a well-known book as it should be, because it's a fantastic book, and it's set after the apocalypse. And it's not nearly as grim as The Road, because they're not eating each other, but they're trying to piece.
They can't remember.
They can't remember, but they have some things in their language that when you read it, you go, oh right, they understand. They've got some, for instance, geographic places. So it's Canterbury. They talk about Canterbury a lot. They don't know what it is.
So it's a bit like a study of the Eloi in a way.
Right.
The blonde-haired, fair people who lived at the end of time in the time machine, the H.G. Wells story, and the Morlocks live underground and eat them. Because the Eloy go to these libraries and everything's all decayed and they don't remember what they were for, really.
Yes, it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
When I read it, I seen that the I don't know. The plot was quite simple. Didn't need to be complicated. And the plot seems to be that it looks like the thing that they're trying to make or get hold of, the secret that they believe they're on the edge of discovering, is how to make gunpowder. But and you just think, oh no,
No.
it's going to start all over again. Yeah, and it's a really lovely book, and I see that as that's the model. That's the model, is that there's going to be a few stunted people with about 80 words between them, grunting around under some stunted odd bushes and trees, and we're going to all start again like that, and then around them the wildlife will then reappear over, and it'll just start again, and there'll be a little tiny stray. They will find remnants of an old civilization. So be it. That to me is not a huge problem. It's not a huge problem.
I don't want to be in the failed race, though, because if there are a load of other races out there in space, which there probably are, billions of them, some of them might...
What do you say?
Well, out in space, when you think about the number of habitable planets that we've discovered, exoplanets, which are the correct distance from their sun to sustain life, they've predicted that there's probably a mean number of planets which could be assumed reasonably to have the prospect of supporting life and evolution in the way that we recognise it. And the number is astronomical, it's huge. And if that's the case, and there are a lot of other life forms out there in the universe, statistically there must be a number of them who are successful. I don't want to be one of the failed ones that ruins their planet. I think it's really crap.
Well, I just think that's the way it rolls. That's what happens in nature,
no,
isn't
that's
it?
a shit way to say it. Why? Why can't we change that?
Well, because it's not in our nature to keep things in balance. I've seen you at a party, Paul. I've seen myself at a party. It's not really in my nature. And instead of going, I am now going to be a balanced, moderate person who acts in a way that, in accordance with all these conservation rules. And maybe in 2 or 3 generations they would have trained themselves to do it. But, driving through Corsham a minute ago, from seeing some youths hanging around there, it didn't look to me like we're evolving to a higher form of humanity.
You don't know what they were discussing.
They were kicking a dustbin across the street, filming each other, trying to jump on it.
Oh, no.
They were like really nice, low-grade rural vandals.
Oh, no.
But they looked quite fun. They didn't look horrible. But I did think that this is, that is the future of humanity.
It's hardwired, that's what you're saying.
That's what we want to do.
It's hardwired
and let us do it. And it's such a pity, but there we are. It's who we are, and better to go. That's who I am. And I think definitely not to outrage the fish by going, I really think it's terrible how much fish we eat. Well, gobble down in
the
Scots.
last turbot.
Exactly, while I'm pining on their dreadful fate.
Do you know that poem by Robert, is it Brown John? Is it called To See the Rabbit? Do you know that poem?
No.
Hold on.
Come on.
I'm going to read it to you.
I've got... Paul started reading quite a lot of poetry. It's really nice. It's one he's really good at reading it.
It's Alan Brown John, who was regarded, I'm not sure, but I think they saw him as a British beat poet. And he says, to see the rabbit. We are going to see the rabbit. We are going to see the rabbit. Which rabbit, people say? Which rabbit, ask the children. Which rabbit? The only rabbit. The only rabbit in England. Sitting behind a barbed wire fence under floodlights, neon lights, sodium lights, nibbling grass. On the only patch of grass in England, except the grass by the hoardings, which doesn't count. We are going to see the rabbit, and we must be there on time. First we will go by escalator, then we will go by underground, then we shall go by motorway, and then by helicopter, and the last 10 yards we will have to go on foot. And now we are going, all the way to see the rabbit, and we are nearly there, and we are longing to see it, and so is the crowd, which is here in thousands, with mounted policemen and big loudspeakers and bands and banners, and everyone has come a long way, but soon we shall see it, sitting and nibbling the blades of grass in... But something has gone wrong. Why is everyone so angry? Why is everyone jostling and slanging and complaining? The rabbit has gone. Yes, the rabbit has gone. He has actually burrowed down into the earth and made himself a warren under the earth, despite all these people. What shall we do? What can we do? It is a pity. You must be disappointed. Go home and do something else for today. Go home. Go home for today. You cannot hear the rabbit under the earth, remarking rather sadly to himself, by himself, as he sits in his warren under the earth. It won't be long. They are bound to come. They are bound to come and find me, even here.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Grim.
Oh well. We have been. That's just ridiculous. Come along this one.